and backup audio recorded. All right, we are on the record for today, June 4th, 2025, the session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is Ashton Tucker, and I will be serving as your zoning hearing examiner from the city of Cincinnati, and I will be presiding over this case. Let's make sure. The case number I have today is ZH20250045 in regards to, of course, sorry, 1 second. This is why I brought it back up. All right, in regards to 1911 Radcliff Drive. All right, I have a little speech that I have to read out. It's for your benefit as well as mine. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules for the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. This hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant or any of the applicant's agents will first present the applicant's case. The public will then have an opportunity to speak. I don't believe we have anybody here from the public. Then I will have the planning department tell me about their staff report and anything regarding this application that they would like me to know. The applicant will ultimately get the last word, and then I will move on to closing remarks. After all the presentations have been made, I will close the hearing and a decision can be expected within 2 weeks or so. Again, I am new at this and I am filling in for Dave Sturkey, so it may take me a little bit longer than 2 weeks. Right now we're pushing on 3. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask any questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties, I will try to troubleshoot those as I can. If not, I may continue or postpone this hearing at my discretion. Anybody who's planning on testifying today, if you could raise your right hands. Do you, I might. I was gonna say, even if you don't know that you will, it's better to be sworn in first. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will actually, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go a little out of order, and I'm going to start with the planning department. If you can just kind of give me sort of a Cliff Notes version of what we're looking at right now.
Sure. So there's a couple pieces of zoning relief here. Probably the largest one would be to have multiple principal structures on a lot. Zoning code typically requires that you can only have one principal building on a lot. You can have an accessory structure like a shed or a detached garage, but this application proposes 2 principal structures. And then there's a special exception for parking lot landscaping to have the parking lot islands be 9 feet wide instead of the required 15 feet wide. And then there's some relief of the hillside overlay district. The hillside overlay district has a maximum retaining wall height of 8 feet. And there's a proposed retaining wall across the width of the site that's 19.25 feet tall at the high point. The hillside overlay district also limits how much excavation and fill is permitted. Generally, the intent of this district is to preserve the natural topography as much as possible. If there is to be excavation and fill, the intent is that it be kind of stepped with the hillside and maintain the natural appearance of the hillside and prevent landslides, ideally. So there's a maximum excavation and fill of 8 feet in cumulative height, and this project has approximately 34 feet of excavation and fill. So relief of that 26-foot difference would be required.
Thank you so much. We'll move over to the applicant side. I will let whoever wishes to take the lead, take the lead. All right.
I'll start.
All right.
Morning, thank you for hearing this case.
Of course.
Basically, we just want to present our case and kind of explain the uniqueness of the site and the business, and why we think that, we would ask for relief from the variant or for the Hillside District's rules. Number one is regarding the retaining wall and the fill. We kind of look at those as being together, is that we need to build this wall to level out the land to build the building, and behind the wall we need to place the fill. So they kind of go hand in hand. We think that this area, this site, is kind of in a unique situation just because we're kind of down in a valley, and we're filling this valley. And historically, I don't know if you had a copy of the geotech report, but there's some statements in the geotech report that the site was filled between 1914 and 1953. And then there was a subsequent fill taking place maybe in the late 80s, 1987. And a lot of that fill was like building rubble. So there's, there's material in there that's not natural fill, it's not natural rock and stuff like that. And when we did the original building, we had to do special footings and foundations to account for that. So really it was almost like a dump site, back in the day, right? And we found a way to utilize this. The owner here, they acquired the site. They didn't make the fill themselves. And they were able to make the site work for the needs that they have. And so what we're asking for in this case is just to continue that use. The site's still the same site. It's still in the valley. It's still rubble. We know that we're needing to make the special foundations to support the building. We know about that. And I think it's important to note that, really, there's really nothing on the downhill side of us. We have a neighbor to the northwest, which is the downhill side. And it's not, his building is, far away from our property. It's not near our retaining wall. And it's not like we're building above Columbia Parkway or something like that. So there's a very low risk of, damage or any type of safety issue should something go wrong with the wall or something like that. So again, I just want to try to focus on the uniqueness of the site. And it's in, this wall is in the back of the site. It's away from the public roadways. And there's really no significant safety issues to the public that are on the downhill side. So that might address items 1 and 2 that we're asking for relief in the staff report. Item 3 that Mr. Lachey talked about, being the 2 principal buildings on the property. Again, Q Labs, we feel, is a unique building operation. They do contract laboratory services for food and drug clients, and they need to have a very clean environment for their facilities. And if we were to do some type of an attached building, just the disruption for the construction would be, it would enable contamination of their samples, and it would be very disruptive to their business. So that's why we proposed this separate building to be a detached building, just to kind of preserve their operations, that they don't disrupt their contamination or disrupt their samples. Item 4 is the landscape relief that we're asking for. We really need the parking that we show. We think we're going to use every spot that we have there. We tried to make it work with staff to, be accommodating to the landscape requirements. We did add a couple islands. They are 9 feet wide instead of the 15 feet wide that's required. But we feel that we've kind of, gave as much as we could give as far as not giving up too many parking spaces. So we're asking for relief on that. Just to, we hope that we, tried to meet the intent, even though we may have not met the letter of the law. So really, that's it. I just, would like to point out that you know, Q Labs has been there, how long?
On this property since 2017. To this building.
Okay. So, you know, they've been there for a little while. They've had a, you know, successful business. They need to expand. So they're trying to work with the site the best way they can. And we're just asking for the relief here on these 4 points that are stated in the staff report.
All right.
If you are interested, I do have pictures of what the neighbor would see. This is kind of the valley from the neighbor's property looking up our future site. If you want me to submit those, I can submit those to you. And
Okay, and those weren't part of your original?
they were not.
Okay.
These are hot off the press. I took them this morning.
Yes, you certainly can submit them.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that. All right, anything from you, Mr. Arling?
No, yes, I would just say thank you for hearing us out on this. As Scott mentioned, I think we have a unique property and unique business setup here. So we're looking to try to continue to invest in the area that we're in and all stay together versus exploring alternatives to other areas for expansion. So we appreciate your time and input on this, and we hope that we can make some accommodations to allow us to continue to grow the business and invest in the community and grow jobs there. So I'll leave these guys to explain all the details, but thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Lichtenberg, from you?
Yeah, I would like to add just a couple things about a few of the points. One of the points is regarding 2 principal buildings on 1 single lot. Scott explained, you know, physically why it would be a huge disruption to Q Lab's business to do an addition because of the dirt that would basically shut down their lab for contamination reasons when we did an addition. The other point I wanted to make, you know, I was involved in the first building that we built on that lot. And when we went through the permit process, our original plans did show a second building on the lot. This was always our intent. I'm not familiar if the code has changed since then, but I just wanted to point out that this has always been our intent. It was shown on our original, obviously when you go through a lot of iterations of plans. It was on our original iterations of plans showing this building close to where we're proposing it now. And then regarding the excavation, I think one thing that should be pointed out is we're calling, is it a 26 feet over the allowed excavation? That's coming from when we dig these foundations, we actually drill through the existing rubble and fill that's there down. And that's where the 26 feet is coming from. We're not actually out there with a bulldozer digging 26 feet deep. We're taking a big drill and drilling a deep foundation all the way down and filling it up with concrete. That's something nobody is ever going to see. Nobody's ever going to know it's there. So I think technically, yes, we're digging that deep, but it's not affecting anyone. No one is ever going to see it. It's simply there to make sure our building doesn't settle. And then the third point I want to bring up about the foundation wall in the back. Scott took pictures. Pictures we all know are very hard to see. I don't know if you guys get out and do site visits, but I would highly encourage to whoever's doing that to drive into the lot of the building down the hill there in the valley and see for themselves and try to visualize what this wall would look like. You pull in there and there are 100-foot tall cliffs on both sides. We're at the back of the property and looking in there, you can't really even see up there. You can't see Q Lab's existing building and it really looks flat. I don't think you're even going to be able to see this retaining wall from the rear of that property down there. And that is the only place you would ever be able to even come close to being able to see it. None of the streets, I mean, you go up the valley goes up and around a turn like that. And there's a 1-lane, I don't know the name of the road, that you go up. And the whole way up there, you can't see up there. You cannot see even close to be up there from Queen City. It's not going to be visible to anyone. And we're also proposing to put trees in front of it to help buffer the wall. So it's, you know, Scott said it's not going to be a safety issue where it's not like we're building a retaining wall at the top of a cliff or there's a cliff above a retaining wall that we're holding up. that's all it is, and you're not gonna see it. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
That's all.
Just for the record, before I would write anything, I do plan on going.
Okay,
by.
that would be great. I think that would be a benefit.
We'll move over to the planning department. Mr. Lashad and Ms. Ahouse, what would you like me to know?
Sure. So for each of the zoning relief, we have to analyze if the project meets the applicable criteria for variances, special exceptions, hillside relief. So for the variance to allow multiple principal structures, you have to demonstrate that there's some sort of unique circumstance or hardship where following that requirement would be impractical for this specific property. And staff feels that the applicant has met that. They've made a presentation explaining why having to build an addition onto a laboratory that's very enclosed, very secure would be disruptive to their operations, would contaminate the work that they're doing. And so we acknowledge that that would be a hardship and it would be very difficult for them to build an addition onto the building. And also you're in a manufacturing general zoning district. There's no setback requirements. This is a very intense industrial district where you can have pre-engineered metal buildings up to 85 feet tall. Aesthetics and like sort of site layout is not really a consideration in this district. So staff recommends approval of the variance to allow multiple principal structures. The relief for surface parking lot landscaping is a special exception, which is intended to be a little bit of an easier application than a variance. Special exception, you have to demonstrate that your project is still consistent with the intent of the code and that there's no adverse impact as a result of the way that you've designed your project instead. So although the code requires that the landscape islands be 15 feet tall here, the parking lot is not massive. It's larger than a quarter acre, but it's not too big. And they do have parking lot landscaping. They do have islands inside the parking lot. They're 9 feet wide, which is the width of one parking space, which is fairly common. So it doesn't technically meet the letter of the law, as somebody said, but we feel it meets the intent of the code. And again, you're in an industrial area. There's no adverse impact that's anticipated as a result of these landscape islands not being 15 feet wide. So we recommend approval of that special exception also. Regarding the hillside relief for the retaining wall height and the excavation and fill, we have to see if the project does not meet the letter of the law here. We have to see, does it meet the hillside overlay guidelines that were approved by City Planning Commission, meet the base development requirements, the intent of the hillside overlay district. So for example, a wall that's more than 8 feet tall, maybe it's 9 feet tall in the middle, but it kind of gets shorter on the sides. Maybe the average would only be like 5 feet tall or something. The intent is to avoid cliff-like surfaces and major alterations to the natural topography. Unfortunately, this wall as proposed is much greater than the code allows. Its highest is 19.25 feet, but for about 200 linear feet, it's something 16 to 19 feet tall, which is, we would say that's like a cliff-like surface, which the code is trying to avoid. And then regarding the excavation and fill, there is more than 8 feet of excavation and fill, but sometimes that happens on larger sites. And some projects can be designed to step with the topography. So even though the entire scope of the site might be more than 8 feet, maybe you could argue that each step is less than 8 feet or that it's not too disruptive across the entire site. However, unfortunately, that's not the case here. Across almost the entire width of the site, they're proposing upwards of 16 feet of fill for this retaining wall. The site is not designed to step with the topography. The site is designed to alter the topography in order to accommodate the proposed development, which is very flat. Again, the intent of the hillside district is that the buildings and the improvements on the property follow the topography. So unfortunately, this project does not comply with the base development requirements, the hillside overlay district guidelines, or the intent of these regulations. So unfortunately, staff cannot recommend approval of those two pieces of relief.
Ms. Ahouse, anything to add?
Yeah, I think Mr. Lashad's staff report really summarizes our findings. We acknowledge that this is a business looking to expand in the city and they have unique needs and want to stay at their current site. You know, the geotechnical report does note the site is suitable for the development, with additional recommendations for further study. But as Matt stated, you know, when we're reviewing those hillside development standards, you know, our finding was just that it does not meet the hillside development regulations in its current form, largely just with the retaining wall and its height.
All right, I said that the applicants will get the last word, so I'm turning it back over to you all. Whoever would like to go first can go first.
I agree with the statements. I mean, I can't argue with the statements. All I can say is that, you know, I know the intent is for the site to step, but you can't drive on steps, right? The parking needs to be somewhat level. The building pad, obviously, that needs to be exactly level. So it's difficult. It's difficult to design something like that steps with the terrain when you need a level surface for a building pad. You need somewhat level surfaces to drive on. So we're asking for relief, like I said, and I think that Doug and Jason said, you know, this is the site that's here, and they're trying to work with it. I do want to point out though that you know, this entire site is in the Hillside District overlay. So even this first building that we built back in 2017 or whatever, you know, that building was in the Hillside District, and you know, it's level, the parking lot's level, the building pad's level and stuff like that. And, you know, I don't think you're having any problems with
not at all.
slippage or, you know, any type of structural problems or anything like that. So I think it was done correctly, and you know, Mr. Lichtenberg is the same contractor. He knows the site. He knows the client. I don't see any reason why the end result for this new building would be any different. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anything further, Mr. Arling?
Yeah, I'll just say I appreciate your perspective, and I thought you laid that out very well, just from a presentation of all these things. I'm learning about all these as we go here. This isn't my day job, so to speak. But so again, like Scott said, I can't argue with specifically what you said. I would just ask, you know, folks to understand what we're trying to do, and we've got trusted partners here who I think have laid out a nice case for why this is a safe option, why it's not going to impact the community in a negative way, and would just ask for your consideration, understand the thought and the detail and the investment we've already put in thus far, and what we're trying to accomplish here in our neighborhood and our community. So that's
And Mr. Lichtenberg?
Yeah, I think I just want to reiterate what I mentioned earlier, so we don't overlook the fact that I think we all understand the intent of the Hillside District, but I think we're in a unique situation with our law. Number one being, this was always our intent. From the time QLOPS built the first building, it has always been our intent to build a second building back there. Like I said, it was shown on our plans. QLOPS thought they could do it when we built the first building. They may not have built the first building if they knew they couldn't expand their capacity on this lot. So it's going to be hard for them if they find out they cannot expand. I don't know what they'll do. But I just want to make sure everyone understands that that was always the intent. We showed it that way on the original drawings when we did the original building. And I think that this is a very unique lot, and you'll see that when you go visit. We are not presenting a safety hazard to anyone, anybody's property, any road, anything like that. The wall is, that's all it is. It's not like there's a big hill above it, big hill below it. It's not visible to anyone. Even though it's not visible, we are going to screen it. I don't think it's going to look like a 20-foot vertical cliff because of where it is and what we're doing. So just want to reiterate that. That's all.
I understand. I'll move into just a brief round of closing remarks. Anything you guys would like me to know from the planning department just to wrap up?
Nothing else for me.
Anything else? Yes.
Just one more thing. If you do visit the site, could you at least check in with Mr. Arling and make sure that he's on site and, you know, for security purposes?
Yeah, we can escort you to the right area and give you
Certainly.
anything you'd like to see with the proper escort.
Yeah. And I imagine that in your application somewhere your contact information is.
It's in there somewhere. I can leave you a card too, if that's
That'd be good.
helpful. If that's easiest, you can call it's got all my contact.
That would be good. That sounds good to me. All right. So what I'll do now is I'm gonna take everything that's been said and I'm going to also do a site visit, and take all of that under advisement. And I will work on writing a decision for everybody. Again, this may take me a little longer than 2 weeks, but, I promise you that I am working on it.
For us.
And for that, I will go ahead and close out this hearing. Thank you, everybody, for your testimony today. I very much appreciate it.
All right, thank you.